sit back. So I think as Carol alluded to in terms of our demographics, our first slide speaks to membership trends over the last few years. There we go. I love waterfall charts like this. Wish it told even more of a positive story. But as you can see, over the past couple of years, there was a dip in 2021 with COVID-related resignations and fewer new members. Obviously, a time of real challenges for any temple, not just our temple. Our membership is basically flat into the current fiscal year, 21-22, with 3 net losses of members. But as you look over, and we didn't put it on the slide, it would be just too many bars. As you look over a longer period of time, the last 5 years, not including that challenging period in 2021, our average has been about 20 new members and average resignations of about 25. So very difficult to grow net membership over time, given the demographics. And it's not just our temple, it's really every temple. Turning next to revenue, just some context and background as how we look at revenue. I think if you've been coming to these meetings for a long period of time, you may have seen departmental revenue, and we, Becky and I, who spent a lot of time in this, ultimately concluded that that's just not a real, it's just kind of a messy way of trying to explain our P&L. So we have categorized revenue in 2 ways: operating revenue, dues, tuition, other fees paid by members, basically revenue based, driven by the number of people and the rates that we set for dues and tuition and things like rentals. And non-operating revenue, which includes our investments and the return on our investments and the generosity of TBA members through the annual sustaining campaign in particular. And on the expense side, you've heard us talk about payroll and benefits, which has roughly been about 2/3 to 70% of our revenue. That's professional staff, teachers and facility staff, and non-payroll, where the largest expenses are operating our building, high holidays, which has become more expensive to deliver in person and online, technology in general, programming and admin making up the remainder. Next, in terms of specific revenue trends over several years, you can see that with the exception of 2021, our revenues remain flat around $2.2 million for several years. But as you can see, between the green and the blue, our mix has changed, with more revenue coming from non-operating sources in line with the decline in our membership. So for example, in the first bar, 2019-2020, 86% of our revenue came from operating sources, and in the current fiscal year, that's 81%. So the gap is being filled increasingly by non-operating sources, our investments, and in particular, our sustaining. Looking at trends in expenses, similar. I mean, we operate to our balanced budget. Similarly to revenue, our expenses have roughly been about $2.2 million, other than in that challenging year right in the middle of COVID. Technology expenses have increased, our non-payroll expenses in particular, and we've seen a shift in our non-payroll expenses, which were about 29% in 2019-2020, which are projected to be about 33% in the current fiscal year and in our budget. So in terms of our proposed budget for the coming fiscal year, which is 2022-23, on the expense side, as Becky spoke to, we've reorganized the staff and try to manage, as we've done over the last several years, our payroll and benefits as tightly as we can. As you all know, if you read the press, pay attention to the financial markets, inflation has been rampant, and we've tried to address inflation and cost of living increases the best we can for staff. In terms of revenue, we are proposing a dues increase of $180 per member unit, and all school tuitions, ELC, religious school, we are budgeting a 4% increase. In terms of non-operating sources, on the bottom on the right, we've budgeted a 5% contribution from one of our investment accounts, which we call our cash management account, and the endowment committee has approved a 5% draw from the endowment, which is higher than our historical rate. plus a moderate draw on the door-to-door for innovative programs. And lastly, we have a goal, the same goal we had this year, or the same level we achieved this year for our annual sustaining campaign of $255,000, which is ambitious, but our community has stepped up the past 2 years, and we continue to need and are very confident that we'll experience the strong support that our members have been able to provide for the last several years. This not only helps those who need assistance to be part of the TBA community, but also goes towards the increased technology expenses and other ways in which we continue to operate at the levels we do today. So that is our budget. I'm happy to take any questions, and then we'll take the formal step of approving our budget. So if there are any questions, happy to answer them. You have a question, Carol? Vote would be great.
Let's have a vote. All right, let's have a vote. And we'll be doing this both online for those of us who are online as well as in person verbally. So is there a motion to vote on the budget? Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor of approving the budget as presented, please say aye. All those opposed, please say no. And online, do we have a yay or a nay? We're tallying. We'll give them another minute. This is kind of cool, actually. At least we can see it live. Margie has a question. Can you ask her to chat it? Oh, it was a fake out. Okay. All right, we have the motion. Oh, okay. The budget has approved. Thank you, David. Thank you to the Finance Committee for your hard work for the entire year.